Welcome to the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 show to bring you all things Club America and English.
Oh, what a strike! Club America!
Your hosts for today are Ivan Pineda, Cristian Rosendo, Alexis Juarez, and everyone's favorite cowboy, Dylan Jimenez. Go! Now let's hit the field and start the show.
America!
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Eagle Eye Podcast. Today, we're going to be covering all of the chaotic mess that was the America versus Leon game. We'll give you guys a recap of everything that happened, and Chris will talk a little bit more about his profile picture. And like I mentioned, today joining me to cover all things Club America in English and is none other than our boy Chris. Chris, how are you?
Good, man. A little cold today. Still waiting for the hot weather, but yeah, man, I'm feeling good. Ready to talk about the Leon game. You know, our version of WrestleMania. You know, but yeah, man, very hyped to talk about it.
Definitely. Shout out to Carlos Diaz right there saying, yo, guys, what is going on, Carlos? And talking a little bit about what you just mentioned, the weather should be going up next week, Chris. So
we've been saying that for a while, though.
Yeah, but I got I don't know, upwards to almost 90 degrees in some areas. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, like you mentioned, a lot of chaos in the Estadio Azteca last Saturday, which coincidentally coincided with WrestleMania at the same time, which I know you were very much keeping an eye on both things at the same time. How was that?
Oh, it was hard, bro. Like I was telling you, I had the WrestleMania on my TV and I had the game on my phone, and like I was like, obviously when you don't hear the commentary, it's like you don't really know what's going on. You see like all the balls moving around, okay, and then out of nowhere you saw like people just like complaining, getting heated, and then you see people pushing each other. I'm just like, what the hell? And I remember I was with my cousin. And I was just like, hey, bro, come. Like I sent him. I had an Instagram stream, and I just sent it to him. I'm like, bro, they're fighting. We're like more focused on that than the TV at that moment. But I did like pay attention, you know, to the big moments of the game, and you know, I think, you know, it looked like really intense game.
It definitely was, but I mean, we'll get into that in just a second. Right now, I just kind of want to say a little bit something from what you were mentioning. It's always difficult to watch these games whenever you don't hear the commentary, because I'll be out. We'll go to like a party or we'll go somewhere, and obviously, you know, you're kind of stuck watching the game on your phone, and it's, you know, sometimes you have to be attentive to other people and to, you know, the company around you, so you're not always focusing, and then you're just kind of paying attention to the screen, and you're just like, well, the ball's moving, but what's really been going on, it's kind of hard to gauge, but I kind of understand where you're coming from in that perspective. So well, I mean, that's just kind of that. Shout out to AP Junior in the chat as well, saying let's freaking go. Awesome to see you back here, AP Junior. Well, let's get right into it, guys. Let's get right into it, and let's talk America versus Leon. 2-2 at the end. We mentioned that this was going to be one of the more important games to close out the season, only because it was second against third, a 6-point game, if you would like. And I think we talked about it, Chris, whenever we were mentioning these kind of, you know, crucial 4 games for Tan Ortiz and America, that you kind of couldn't give yourself the luxury to draw, or even not even draw, but drop points against Leon. And ultimately, you do end up doing that. I mean, we'll get into the nitty gritty of everything, but 2-2 at the end of the day, you get 1 point apiece. How are you feeling?
I'm not gonna feel that good about the tie, just for the simple fact that everyone else that's behind us is catching up, and we have a very tough game against Monterrey, and then we have 2 derbies, right? That could always go any way. Things could get very ugly, and it could also get very pretty at the same time, you know? It would have been ideal to get this win, so at least we get some comfort. But I guess, like, you know, going into Monterrey is coming, right? They're playing us at Azteca. Them coming with us without Tano is going to be difficult, but I do think knowing that we could pull off a big upset or not lose, right? In like being able to tie in a very competitive game does give me at least some optimism heading into this game.
I mean, there's definitely bright moments in this Leon game that we'll highlight in just a second to kind of give some optimistic optimism going for the Americanismo. But again, there's this kind of sense that America can't close out a game, and we've seen it time and time again. And we'll go into the nitty gritty of it, like I mentioned. But yeah, it was a frustrating game overall because this is a game where you thought, the first 45 minutes, you're like, wow, America's gonna be lucky if we get a draw out of this. And then towards the second half, you're like, well, this is a game that we should be winning comfortably. And to walk away with a draw, you're kind of left with a bitter taste in your mouth. Like, this could have been better. This should have been better. And you're looking at the league table, and like you mentioned, teams are starting to rack up those points and starting to catch up. And you're now left with that sensation of what could have been, because it was just a game where America easily could have made it a comfortable win if it wasn't for their lack of trying to kill this game off. And, it's also a lack of the defense that we've been talking about time and time again.
And
And
that's the most frustrating part, right? Because
yeah,
like this is not a one season thing. It's several seasons now since Piojo was here. Like it gets to the point where these mistakes shouldn't be like that predictable. It shouldn't be like, well, why did you guys lose? Well, the defense, and I know that I've been called an Emilio Lara hater on here, and I'm not gonna hate on him because obviously I am optimistic when it comes to him being a center back. But that first goal, it's like we're talking about predictable. All these goals kind of seem the same, and then Araujo too in the second goal, and it's frustrating because it's like, okay, well, how do we become champions with knowing that it's this predictable on how we're getting scored on? Do we have to score 7 goals in every single game or have to score that much? It's nice to know that our attack is that elite, right? But at the same time, it's very frustrating that you see these goals happen and just like, well, they're gonna happen. Maybe like on a good day it doesn't, but when do we know that good day is gonna happen? And how do we fix this right now? That's more of the conversation.
no, I agree. I think it's just these mistakes are becoming a little bit more than frustrating now. It's starting to become so repetitive that it doesn't even surprise you. It just frustrates you. And that's the difficult thing about this. It's defense. Defense win championships, and America's defense is not a title contender defense. And let's be honest, as much as we want to put up the points, and as much as we want to put our offense up there, I mean, it's just it's not suitable. It's not suitable, and that's the frustrating thing about it.
Yeah, and it's very frustrating. Like I said, we've had this issue for a while, and it's not like we haven't invested in it. But sometimes you look into the investment and you're just like, well, there's something that's lacking. A lot of the times it's leadership, right? Like if Emilio Lara had Pablo Aguilar there, I don't think he makes those mistakes a lot. And I think that's a focus that America needs to have in the off season. It's go bring in a real leadership, a real veteran in his prime defender that could just be the glue of everything.
Well, that
And
was what Nestor Araujo was supposed to be.
and he's not, and I don't think anyone really expected it. Like when the signing happened, it was more like, okay, well, what's his upside? Well, he's solid in Europe. Maybe him being in Europe, the leagues are different. Maybe he's solid over there. He'll be really good over here. But to me, like I used to have debates with my dad about this. Like Araujo to me was always just like okay, like he's okay. And it's the same thing now. Like his ceiling is closer to his floor, if that makes sense. Like he's nothing special, and you saw it. Like he's gonna be an issue when he's in the on the field, And I think he's also a guy that I would like to get rid of in this summer because it's not like he's 25 years old. He's aging, and you're seeing that he's not gonna be anything great for the future. So I would look into that, just trying to remove him from the team and send him somewhere else. Maybe on a loan, maybe selling him. Hopefully, selling him, since that's been an issue for this club too, being able to get rid of players. But I think he's gonna be just a weakness while he's out there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you in that sense that he is deteriorating. As the weeks go by, he's not the Nestor Araujo that we all wanted him to be, or that we all painted him to be. And I think that's also kind of maybe a poor misjudgment on our end as well, thinking that he could be the fix all situation. But I mean, we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens in the offseason. A lot of what's gonna happen in the future is determined on how well we finish the season, right? If we get a title, then I think a lot of these issues get swept under the rug. If we get like a quarterfinal, semifinal exit, then I think you start seeing a little bit more of a change in the
Well,
roster.
well, a lot has to do with, also, we haven't done this podcast yet, which is gonna be in the future, but also when they go public, right? The investors, what do they think about this team? Because it's also like, I don't know the whole contracts on players, but I would assume it is difficult to get rid of some of these players, especially when they're not doing good and only the top teams are being able to pay for it. But you're right. Hopefully, this summer, like, well, hopefully, even if we end up champions, hopefully we're able to just open up space, because there's weaknesses in every team, but when it's like those predictable weaknesses, it just seems like a lot of people will blame the coach, but then I also question, is the main issue up top, or is it the coach? Because remember, Solari had similar issues too. Piojo had similar issues too. Uh, Tano has similar issues. They all have the same issues. So who are we gonna blame for this? Are we gonna just continue getting rid of all these coaches and not get rid of players? We always have these conversations when it comes to we've had it with this season. About, well, how long would Tano be a coach? What is his ceiling? Well, how long are we gonna stop blaming the coaches and just be like, okay, it's, and I know there's a lot of people that are loud about it, but I mean, consistently, like, forget the coach. The coach isn't the issue. It's the front office.
Yeah, no, I agree in that sense. Shout out to Midwestern Cholo saying Nestor Araujo would fit perfect in Mazatlan, and I think he would definitely. I mean, if George Meta fit, I'm pretty sure they can make some room for Nestor. But like you mentioned, there's a lot of moving pieces still yet to kind of decipher here for America, especially going into the summer, right? Where you got the whole kind of going into the whole Mexican stock market situation. What avenues is that gonna open up? Players coming back on loan and international players that you have to get rid of in order to open up a seat and a spot, and players coming out of their contracts, and whether or not there's going to be renewals for some of these players. So a lot of moving pieces for America. That again, a lot is kind of going to be decided on how well this team kind of ends, and also for the future of Tano Ortiz. I think it's been heavily put out there in the America universe that if he doesn't win this title, I think he has to go, and I mean rightfully so, right? If there's no progression, then America's got to look elsewhere in that matter. So let's get into this America versus Leon before we kind of get too sidetracked in everything. So, Chris, it's always a tale of two halves with America, as always, and this game was no exception to that whatsoever. America starts off poorly, probably the most poorly I've ever seen them play this whole season. I think Tudene had a bit of an issue showing the game right off the get go. I think that we scored and they didn't actually put it into the broadcast until later. But America opens up the score sheet. It's an offside goal, gets called back, and Leon actually catches fire from that point on. Completely reads the game perfectly and understands how it is that they are going to go about and make it just that much more difficult for us going forward. They kind of capitalize on every, 50-50 ball opportunity. They close down all the channels and avenues for the midfield. They absolutely stop Fidalgo from doing any type of creativity, and Jonah Dos Santos just looked flat, like a shadow of the player he was against Chivas. All of these culminating factors made it so that America just could not find a rhythm and could not even try to come up with a solution. And Leon capitalized it. Every minute, every second that you saw Leon get on the ball, there was something going to happen for them. And to be honest, I think America was lucky to just only go down by a goal. They even scored beforehand and their goal got called offside. But that wasn't a wake up call for America. If anything, it was just kind of a warning of what was to come. And you kind of saw it. I mean, this defense was again in shambles, whether it was the left side or the right side. I think Leon understands that this America side, the weakest links are their fullbacks, right? One is a center back, and the other one is Salvador Reyes that is not in form, and neither is Luis Fuentes. So it's not like we have any poised position to kind of throw anyone in that position. And that kind of was just the first 45. I mean, it was shocking to say the least, because we were talking about this on the podcast when we had Kari on, and we expected America to go guns a blazing, but Leon absolutely figured us out.
Yeah, I want to highlight the Jonah dos Santos. Like I said, I watched the game on my phone, but I did notice that like he was very bad, losing the ball a lot. You know, at least that's how it seems like. And I think it's fair to say this team, it has to be Richard and Fidalgo in the midfield. Like it just has to. Like for whatever reason, like it just fits the system. And if a lot of the times you feel kind of like Richard Sanchez is just also very, like, I don't want to say mid, but you feel like he could give you a lot more than he has given us, right? With that being said, though, he has shown a lot of promise, like, or not promise, but a lot of flashes of, oh, I could make this team better, right? And you see it whenever he's gone. Like, yeah, Jonathan Santos had a very good game against Chivas. At the same time, like, this might get people mad that go from Mexico, but I'm not a big fan of Nene Beltran, so I don't even think beating him out or also wasn't necessarily that big of a challenge for him. You know, I
And I
think.
think you have
Continue.
to look at it. Yeah, I think it was the fact that Chivas did impress him the way that Leon did. Leon forced the mistakes. It wasn't because Jonah wanted to have a bad game. It's because he couldn't find a way to elevate his game, and that's the real concerning thing about it. It was that Leon absolutely understood that if you put some pressure on Jonah, which a lot of teams weren't doing, no, excuse me, a lot of teams, but Chivas wasn't doing as much to Jonah. Leon absolutely just went at him, and you saw the consequences because of it.
And I think if you put Aquino there, it would have been the same thing too. You know, I don't think it's necessary. I think there's just a gap between Richard and the rest of the midfielders not named Fidalgo. You know, and I think America needs to make sure like that midfield stays healthy. And once, because you saw a different team in the second half. You know, I also think Sendeja showed that, hey, there is a difference between me and Leo Suarez. I know there was a lot of people that praised the Leo Suarez, but you see like the creativity and the chemistry that Sendejas has with this attack, and you see that in the second goal. It just a lot of it had to do with Henry, but even the cross that Sendejas sent to Henry was perfect, because a lot, I think anyone else would have either shot or they would have sent it over. You know, it was a perfect creative play for me.
Yeah, no, I think Sendejas came into this one and was like, all right, thank you, Luis Suarez. You did a good job while I was gone, but I'm back. So take your spot on the bench. So it was kind of stamping an authority on why he is the starter and why he is where he is at the moment. So, kudos to Sendejas for doing that. We'll talk a little bit about the second half right now because I think there's some key points just to detail. But kind of close off the first half, America stunned and no reaction whatsoever. If anything, they looked like Leon were going to try to get their second. Um, and, the goal. I know a lot of people are calling for Emilio Lara there that he should have maybe done a little better of a coverage. I tend to agree a little bit to some extent. I would blame some of it on Malagon as well. That is a shot that goes straight to your palm when you dive. You got to be doing a better job. Absolutely got to be doing a better job at keeping that ball out in the back of the net. Chris, it really looked similar to the goal that Jimenez conceded against Tijuana in the friendly, right? And you kind of called it
Yeah.
out saying that if he kind of gave that goal to them, so it's kind of similar in that sense. Where I would have wanted Malagon to do better. Now, I'm not saying that he should be benched because I think overall his performance was decent. I don't think he kind of showed off a lot.
Mhm.
There was some moments of hesitation. There was some kind of like, okay, it's the fairy tale start is kind of dwindling down a little bit. So, um, I mean, it's. I just wish he would have done a little bit more. I mean, if America was able to weather out the storm in the first half, I think it could have been different in the second half. Maybe this game goes and we end up winning it 4-0. Who knows? I'm not too sure. But the reality was, America concedes that goal. We go into the halftime, and you just thinking to yourself, something's going to change. Some substitutions have to be made. And it was clear as daylight that the two biggest weaklings for America that there was options to kind of reinforce was that Jonathan Santos and Leo Suarez, two players that were not having a good game by any means necessary. Not to say that, Jonah was doing terrible, but I think he just couldn't elevate his game to the fact that Leon was pressuring him. And you mentioned how the midfield is a perfect duo between Richard and Fidalgo. Well, Fidalgo, I think, had his worst game in an America jersey by far. Even after Richard came on, I think they still found ways to kind of neutralize him in a sense, and I feel like Fidalgo was a little bit too flustered. He wasn't able to come up with a solution, but he had moments here and there that kind of showcase, okay, there's a reason why you are who you are. But first 40 minutes go, Chris, 1-0. It's looking like a uphill battle to climb. But like you mentioned, right, America has that tenacity and that arsenal up front that you kind of had a feeling that, okay, if we can get a goal back, things could change.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you saw, a different team in the second half. And I think when it comes to the depth, when it comes to the offense, we could change the game any minute with the right subs, and you seen that. You seen that with the second half. I think we're gonna see it. I think that's the second half team is what you need to see in this Monterrey game. I know we're not gonna cover the Monterrey game today, but it is ideal that we have the best starting 11 against the best teams, because maybe if you have that second half team start in that first half or the whole 90 minutes, right, with some subs here and there, maybe we win this game pretty comfortable. Maybe we don't have that ugly first half. Some of these goals were offsides and whatnot. Uh, but you look at the play and they were all dangerous. Just that cabecita offsides. Who ends up scoring that? That was
Which one?
Valdez, right? It was a cabecita at first half offsides.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It was Valdez.
Valdez, right? See, stuff like that. Any moment, even if you're having an ugly game, literally one pass and you let them free from anybody from this attack. Leo Suarez, Sandejas, Valdez, Henry, Cabecita, even Roger, who might not play the rest of the season. I'm not sure how serious his injury is, but any of them, you give them that space and they're gonna either assist or they're gonna score. Something big is gonna happen out of that. And I think that's the positive thing about us, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that there's kind of an arsenal artillery right there that they can kind of pick and choose from. Um, and you're right. I mean, it's gives us kind of that, okay. There's options to go off of. I just want to point out right here, Carlos Diaz kind of sums it up a little bit perfectly. Is first half is a perfect example of how we feed Cabecita so much. When it doesn't work, we give up on all creativity. Leo never turned it on for me. He's got to sit down versus Monterrey. I cannot agree more with this statement right here. Leo Suarez did not show up in this game because I think the team didn't give him the opportunity to show up in this game. With the few touches he had, he didn't look that great either. But still, this is a game where you gave it so much that left hand side. And by the way, when you see Sendejas come on and Brian, we still feed a lot to the left hand side, but you see something that Leo Suarez didn't do, that Sendejas did, was he kind of drifted a little bit more towards the middle. He asked for the ball, and whenever he did get the chance, the opportunity, he tried on those 1v1s and beat his marker and was able to control possession in that sense. Ricardo saying, Ivan, it's your fault. America lost. Technically, we tied, but I do understand why it feels like a loss. Dano took your advice. He tried to protect the lead by going with a back line of 5. America wins if they stick to what they're good at, and that's attacking. I agree with about 75% of that. But I still think that we need to learn on how to defend properly. So I didn't bat an eye when he put in that that extra defender with Nestor. I just hate the fact that Nestor did what he did. It's just unbelievable. You can't be doing it at that
I don't even
in
think
moments like that.
it's that bad of a thing to just defend. I don't know what time that change happened. I know Tano has a habit of doing it way too early, but even then, like Like I don't think Leon had this crazy attack where you move it to five and they should be scoring. I think, like I said, Araujo is just it's just weird. Like you don't think he's special. You think like at best he's just a solid defender, but at worst he's just horrible. And I think like that is just the issue that needs to be addressed when it comes to this offseason. I know we're not gonna get into the whole offseason talk, but it is one thing that you really have to think like, well, where do we go once the season's over? Like where do we go?
No, I
Dylan.
agree. Dylan's just over here causing mayhem in the comments, but glad to see our our
Dylan's
favorite
lying.
beloved cowboy is in the
He's
chat
always
stirring
invited.
up. But hey, Dylan, whenever he gets a chance, and even if he can't be on, he loves to be on the comment section and stirring up some drama. That's for
He's like,
sure.
where is AJ? Ask him in the group chat and you'll just send a meme.
Pretty much. I mean, you're right though. It's nothing special whatsoever from Nestor. And actually, he got put in the 89th minute, almost 90th. So you kind of understood the assignment. I was like, okay, you literally just have to go and defend. And he chose to do the most just dumbest thing ever
He's too
and
slow. He
trying
just
to
can't
read a
react.
play.
He just
Yeah,
can't react. He's too slow, and to me, it's just a player that's not gonna get better. He's what 31, 32, maybe 30. I don't know, but it's not a player that's gonna get better because in
yeah,
Europe,
no, I
he
agree.
wasn't anything crazy in Europe either. Like
No, he rode the bench a while too, so it
yeah,
wasn't like he was like an unconditional starter. Ricardo saying Nestor should be put on the transfer list for next season. He's been mediocre for America. And I think something that you mentioned, Chris, right? It's a player that I don't think many of us would kind of bat an eye if America did end up transferring him and whatnot. So, but let's talk a little bit about the second half here because this is where things start getting a little bit interesting. So I actually think, and then some of you might agree, some of you might not. That's perfectly fine. But I think Leon starts the second half and says, I have my goal. I know that all I need to do is defend. I'm really good at defending. I'm not going to go and press America the way I did for the first 45. I obviously, with that intensity, you can't keep it up for the 90 minutes. So I think Leon took their foot off the gas pedal, gave America the opportunity to breathe, and that was their downfall. Because once America was able to get some rhythm, once they saw that Leon was kind of just sitting back, kind of anticipating, waiting for them, willing to sit back, soak up some pressure, and get them on the counter, then America said, well, now this is my game. I can play this type of game. Whenever America gets pressed a lot, we look very clumsy. And I kind of mentioned that we saw glimpses of this against Chivas whenever we scored the first goal. They went at us. And I mean, granted, they were not that good of a team that they weren't able to capitalize it. But Leon is obviously a little bit better. So they were able to do something with that. So Leon kind of steps off the gas. America then gets the two substitutions that we talked about. Leo Suarez coming off, and so did Jonah. And now you have Sendejas and Brian, as well as, sorry, Cabecita came off as well, Brian, and then Richard came in for Jonah. So those three were very pivotal and very key because then you brought a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more speed to your wings. You
better
added,
dribblers too when it
yeah,
comes to tight spaces, which is
100%.
you
And
know
that's what you had to do in those moments. There's a lot of tight spaces that, Sendejas got out of and Brian got out of as well.
Brian is really good when it comes to that. I
Yeah,
don't know if you
and
guys
a
noticed
lot
that.
of questions were on whether or not Brian was gonna be kind of match day ready whenever he got minutes, and I gotta say he absolutely blew me out of the water with the expectations. The only thing I have said, and the only thing I am always heavy critical about Brian is that his finishing is absolutely terrible, and he's had this issue since LAFC, so it's not like
Decision
it's a big
making
surprise.
overall, like it's even when it comes to passes, like you'll see like someone's open and you'll just continue the running, like dribbling the ball, going forward to the keeper. Like, okay, bro, there's a dead end right there. You're not gonna like last minute pass that, and you'll just hit the keeper or defender, and then we get a corner or they get the ball, and it is the most frustrating thing about Brian. He's very talented though. Like that's one thing. Like I think we're not gonna miss Roger. I'll say that much. I think there is people that are big fans of Roger Martinez because I do think on a good day he's very talented. With that being said, though, like Brian is as talented in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he could be even more, so It's just he's got to do better at finishing. My goodness, he had singly like two good opportunities. One was offside where he scored a goal, but um, he had like a very clear 1v1 with Kota, and he just absolutely he hits it to him, and Kota saves it. Like you gotta be better at being a finisher, but. Overall, America looked better, right? So America gets that goal, that first goal back, and of course, this is where the drama starts, right? Everyone says that it's a handball from the Leon side of things. Clearly, now with the footage that's been, all over social media, never a handball.
To
Ref
me, it
was
was
in
obvious. To me, it
100%.
was
Yeah, no,
obvious
I
that it
mean
wasn't.
me too. But
I'd even go
even
to a point where you could even call that a penalty. I wouldn't go
that's
that
what I
far.
was gonna say. I was like, even if that's the case, you got to call the penalty first before you call the handball,
Yeah,
and
because he's
that's
getting
still giving us
pushed.
the
He's
opportunity.
getting
Yeah,
dragged down. Like before anything, before they're saying, "Oh, it was a mano." No, like he's getting dragged down. He said that's a penalty. Like I don't know. I don't understand why people were saying, "Oh, the refs this that," and I know you've seen it. Like at that point, I was just like, okay, well, people don't know what they're talking about.
no, 100%. I agree in that sense, right? And it becomes a whole mess that then the Leon players get in front of the face of the arbitro, and then Diego Valdez tries to kind of usher him away, and then the Leon players get in between him and the ref, and then that's when you see the whole video of the referee kneeing the Leon player, who the Leon player need him first. So it was the beginning of the WrestleMania at the Estadio Azteca.
Yep,
So
the
that was
main
just
event.
the that no, that wasn't the main event. That was just kind of to warm up the fans, right? That was the
Yeah,
opening act. And later on, uh America would get their second goal. I think 5 minutes afterwards is when you see that beautiful transition of a dead ball situation turned into a scoring opportunity, right? Very good, quick 1-2 passes, breaking lines, breaking the defense. Henry Martin doing an exceptional job to just absolutely retain the ball, turn and beat the defender and just open space, get Sendejas a through ball. Which first I looked a little wide. I was trying to think he was trying to give it to Sendejas to finish it off, but then goes a little too wide. Kota commits, comes out, and like you mentioned, Sendejas with that pinpoint accuracy on his right foot, may I add. All
yeah.
right, it was not on his preferred left. On his right foot, crosses it. Henry's right there, heads it in the back of the net, 2-1. And at this point, the Azteca explodes. I'm over here jumping up and down like a madman, and America just absolutely turns the game around in a game where I honestly thought we were not going to be able to come out with anything with how we played in the first half. And then they turn around and things start looking better, and it just flatlined Leon, absolutely flatlined Leon. Their heads were nowhere near the game, and America had the opportunity to kill them not once, not twice, 3 to 4 times in that game alone, and did not punish them, did not put the ball in the back of the net. And that is the most frustrating thing about it, because this team, and maybe in seasons past we would have said it that their ball just can't find the back of the net, but this team in this season, where we are the league leader in scoring, can't put away and finish a game. And that is the most frustrating thing about it, because it was one of those nights where the ball just did not want to go in, and you thought to yourselves, why not?
Or it
Why
did
not
go
this
in,
time?
and it was
And it did go in
offside
again.
or
Yeah, you
hand.
call it back. And I will say, all of the goals that got called back were legitimate. Brian was a yard off when he scored his goal. Diego Valdez did use his handball, did use his hand in when trying to bring the ball into control before he took the shot. So I get that, but there was instances where America could just finish off Leon, but they wanted to get cute with it. They wanted to get cheeky. Sendejas especially, him and Brian were the best players of the night, and also the most frustrating players of the night for me, because they easily could have finished this game off, but they wanted to get cheeky. They wanted to get cute. Once they got into the final 18-yard box, they started to try to do flicks and tricks, and like Sendejas trying to like chip it over and this and that. Like, it's not a moment to kind of play like that. If you were 4-1, perfect, do whatever the hell you want, but you're still only a goal up. Finish the game off, kill it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And maybe it was just the vibe inside the field, right? Sometimes you could tell when a team isn't completely there. But I know you're gonna be the best teammate you could be, but there has to be a reality check too. If you know your defense could give up a goal any second, right? Be serious about it.
Yeah.
Maybe Tano not being there, maybe it affected that, right? It's possible that the assistants weren't doing a good job, but then they're professionals. They should know, like, okay, be serious. Like, go look for the other goal. Like, we've destroyed teams before that were beaten up, right? They were already defeated before the game. Like Chivas, for example, like their fans were leaving, right? And we still scored four. Like, to me, they should know better than to just be playing around with the ball and whatnot.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Maybe the fact that Thanos was gone also too plays a big role in that aspect. But Ricardo says America is going to live and die by their offense, Russian roulette style. And I think you kind of alluded to this, Chris. It kind of seems like that's the case going forward.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Anytime we're in the transfer rumors, right? We're into the midfield and attack. Like, I think that's just the mindset. Score as much as you can, and I don't know if I'm a big fan of that.
I'll tell you who is a big fan of that. That's Cuauhtémoc Blanco. I
Oh,
think he gave an interview one time. It was a while back. He said that he wanted to be an America coach. Right? I think it was a time where we were playing very conservative. We weren't that great. And he said, I would go out there, I'd give the youngsters a chance, and I would tell them like, go score, 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 like attack, 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 90 minutes straight, nonstop. He's like, I don't care if I get scored three, I'm going and scoring four or five myself. Like that was his mentality, and I think that's the mentality that America has at this point because defensively we're not solid enough to think, oh yeah, I can win 5-6-0 comfortably. I
I
think
mean,
it's like,
think
we
about
got to
it, bro.
score.
Think about it. I mean, I'm not sure if your whole family is Americanistas. I would assume so, though.
Correct.
What do you normally hear from the style of America? It's attack, attack, dominate the whole game, right? Not be defensive, not park the bus, be attacking the whole game. Think about it. Why did Mohamed leave? We won a title with him, but if you remember his games were ugly. Like, they were very boring, like football, and yet we got rid of him because it's like that. You're not our style. You're not our cup of tea. But at the same time, I do think we need to be very solid in the defense. I do think we need to invest, not just in the fullback. I do think we need to bring in a center back, at least one, and it has to be from the foreign side, right?
Yeah, because there's no, I mean, unless you're gonna pay Cesar Montes like a gajillion dollars to come play, back in Liga MX, which
And
I don't
even
think he's gonna
then,
take it.
like, Johan Vasquez might be a possibility because they did look for him before they brought in Araujo.
Oh, true.
Even then, like, I wouldn't be happy with Johan Vasquez. Like, I don't like. I know people are gonna say, "Oh, they're in Europe, this and that." There's styles of playing and leadership that I like in a center back, and I don't think he has that. So in the Mexican market, like, you look at around these center backs, and who really would you want? Cesar Montes? That's really the only one, right?
Yeah, I mean that's about kind of it. Other than that, no one really catches your eye in that aspect. I mean, we'll see, right? And this is all speculation. We'll talk a little bit more about it towards the summer. And like I said, a lot is going to be determined on how America finishes this season. But it's frustrating to say the least in that perspective. But it's a sad case that it is. America's got to score a lot more goals because we're gonna get conceded. Like we're gonna concede. Like that's the reality of it. I mean, look, I don't even know the stat on the top of my head. I'm just gonna look it up right now. In the past games that America has played, we have only been able to secure a clean sheet once.
Once
Well,
Mazatlan,
actually,
no?
you're right. Three clean sheets out of the season.
Which was who? Mazatlan's one, right?
Mazatlan, Querétaro, and um, Tigres.
And none of them are really impressive. Like, if I'm being honest, I know people are gonna say Tigres, but Tigres, how they started and how they're going is completely different. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
so it's
it's
not
it's
impressive
yeah.
at all. Like, it's those three. Like I think the mindset needs to be like score, 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 and Tano has to believe that too. It just can't be the players. Tano, when his subs, has to be attack, attack, attack. Because if we're in La Liguilla and the first thing you do when we're up 3-2, right, or whatever score, but all they need is one goal and it's the 70 minute, and you're over here making defensive subs, like it could get very ugly for us.
Yeah, and look, this is America's a shadow of what they were last season. Let's be honest. I mean, we're in fourth place right now, sitting on 24 points. America, yes, last season finished with 38 points, right, top of the table. Even if we were to win all four games remaining 12 points, that's only 36. It doesn't even get us. We're still 2 points shy of our best season under Tano Ortiz. But let's be honest, I don't see that happening. I want it to be a reality, but
I
it's
don't
just
need
these
us to be
defensive
the best
mistakes.
version of us. Like I don't need I don't need all that. What I need is just this team to just be solid. Where to the point where us it's like, oh well, we're gonna lose because Lara doesn't know how to mark his guy, or Chava Reyes just got burnt, or oh we had a sub in Araujo and stuff like that, or Reyes or someone made a mistake. They're trying to kick the ball out, and all of a sudden they don't know how to kick the ball. Like you know what I mean? Like for me, they fundamentally you just have to be good. Like don't make those mistakes, and we're gonna win. But can we fix it this late in the season? I would hope so. Even if not, if we don't fix it, I hope the offense just says, "Look, they're gonna fail us. Let's not be a reason also on why
Why we
why
couldn't
we
make it?
lose."
Yeah.
Yeah, like Henry Martin always gets overly judged when it comes to Ligia. Like he needs to go and tell everybody, "We're gonna score no matter what. No matter what, we're gonna like just be attacking. We're gonna go all out. 90 minutes, two times, both legs. We're just gonna go all out, you know." And I think that's really the most optimistic way that we could win this season.
I agree. I agree
And
in
I see
that
people
sense.
saying like, if Tano doesn't win, he has to go. I agree and disagree to an extent because it comes to a point where we need to have the conversation: is he failing us or is the front office failing him? Right? Because a lot of people talk about Solari style. Think about it. Solari and Tano are two different style of coaches, but they all had bad seasons the same way. Like so at what point, what style ends up being making us champions then, right? Because if you have a conservative style, which was Solari, and then you have a very attack style with Tano, and neither of them are good enough. Like, at what point do we sit here and say, okay, it's not their fault. We need to go, like, we need to put more pressure into getting rid of Baños or whoever's making these signings.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a lot of fingers to be pointed at the front office as well. I mean, past managers will kind of agree in that aspect, but IP Junior saying América tiene que gastar, 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 golear y ganar, sí o sí. I think he meant to say gust. Oh wait, it says gustar. Sorry, my bad. I'm over here. I can't even read. Gustar, golear y ganar, sí o sí. 100% agree with that. AP Junior, thank you for that. And Chris, I think you're right. There's a conversation to be had in regards to that aspect. But let's circle back to this game a little bit and let's talk about how. Uh, let's talk about the main event, right? Let's talk about this profile picture that you have right now on Chris is Larcamon
The WrestleMania match.
with the WrestleMania match, right? It's the T-shirt ripped, everything going on. When this happened, America had just committed a foul on a Leon player outside the 18-yard box, and um, I think the Leon player was going up to one of the America players, and
Was it
then
Chava
Malagon.
Reyes?
Yeah, it was Chava Reyes, and then Malagon came and kind of pushed him and kind of was trying to stop the situation. And so the cameras were just kind of pointed towards that debacle. And then all of a sudden, you see the camera pan and shift over to the managers, and the manager was getting separated, and Larcamon had his shirt out with his titty popped out. You were like, "What's going on?" So it's just a whole thing, and then the manager started going at it more and more and more, and obviously the referee comes, gives them both a red card, and you think, okay, that's where it stops, that's where it ends, but it doesn't. Tano Ortiz is leaving, Larcamon is still arguing, and Tano Ortiz kind of points and says, "I'll wait for you here down at the tunnel. Like, come on, let's finish this." And he even takes off his saco and everything, and you're thinking there is going to be a fist fight. And Arcamon is like running towards Tano and everything. I kid you not, this could have been a WWE moment. Like it had all the makings for it. Um, and it was just it was crazy. I don't think I've ever seen it get to that point. Never with Tano for sure, but two managers going off like that. I mean, I don't, not even Piojo got like that.
I mean, when he said it, they brought up his mom, and we as America fans, the reason a lot of us have this cariño for him, right? This like love for him is because his mom passed away and he stuck with the team, right? Like everyone would have understood if he just said, I'm gonna go bury my mom, but he stayed with her, So when you see him in that press conference, right, or he's getting interviewed, leaving the stadium, you could tell like it really bothered him. So I know a lot of people are gonna say professionalism, right? For me personally, I can't blame him at all. Like
No, I don't either. I don't either. And like you
I don't
mentioned,
blame
right?
him at
Like,
all. Like if he would have headbutted him in the face, I wouldn't have blamed him. And I've seen people say, "Oh, he's acting the victim," this and that. There's some stuff you just don't bring up. If he's gonna get fined and he's gonna miss games, so be it. But I don't blame him at all for his reaction, for telling him, "Come meet me at the locker room," stuff like that. Like I don't blame him at all. Now, some people might say it's not true that he said that. I mean, I haven't seen uh, their coach respond at all to this, but at the same time, like obviously, like something was said, and that's why his reaction was just exactly that.
yeah, something had to have been said in order to like to get his shirt ripped. Like it just does not happen just because of that, you know?
Wait, who am I talking about? The Guardian of hablando.
Oh,
I don't follow her, so I don't know if she said anything like that. But I mean, it's understandable, Like I
I
sent you the
agree.
video of the Angels player, right, holding
Yeah.
that fan's shirt, and a lot of people are just bring up professionalism. I get it. At the same time, I don't blame human reactions. That's just me though. Like if someone disrespects you or disrespects the dad or your kids, anything that just we all know as humans just crosses the line, like you have to be. I just understand like why they did that.
Yeah, like you mentioned, there's a line that you don't cross, and Narcomon crossed it, and then I'm not saying that there's justification for that, but like you mentioned, there's an understanding of that, and I think even the club would understand that. It's like, okay, like, yeah, like, not necessarily saying go off, but go off. Like it's we got your back in that sense. And yeah, Arcamon is still quiet to this day. And look, it's not the first time Arcamon has had issues with Dan Ortiz, right? Last season when we played them again, they got into it. He got into it with Solari too, as well. Like this man just seems to be very problematic whenever he comes and faces us. So um, I don't know. I never had an issue with him, and then to this day now I don't. Honestly, I don't like him. He just seems like
Christian
a
never liked
terrible
them.
guy.
I know if Christian's
Yeah,
listening to this, he never. I remember when Solari was having issues, right? I wanted him as a coach, right? And Christian never always said, "Bro, he's a small club coach, and he never liked them." And I mean, I gotta give him props for that because he was right.
yeah, no, 100%. He saw it from a mile away, and shout out to Christian for keeping us grounded in that sense. Like, yeah, Larcamon is just he's not America caliber, and it shows, 100% shows right there. But yeah, that was a big main event. I mean, that's kind of what got you all riled up. I think got the players riled up, and I think that's what woke up Leon a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Like, this game was still for their America for the taking.
I mean,
And they
getting meat
just
in the privates could wake you up. I'll tell you that much.
no, yeah, no, I agree, but just America doesn't know how to close the game. I mean, after all of the back debacle, after the kind of the dust settles and things kind of go back to normality, back into the game. America has a chance here and there. They don't capitalize on it, and then you start getting towards that like 88th minute mark, where you're looking at the clock and you're thinking, "Damn, it's 2-1. Leon's having the ball a little bit more." Like a little bit of nerves come at you because you're thinking of the Atlas game. You're thinking of the Necaxa game where we could have conceded. You're thinking about all these opportunities, all these games prior with all these opportunities where the team either capitalized or we got lucky. You kind of thought this is probably going to end up being the same case. And then Tan Ortiz, right? Well, his staff calls in Nestor Araujo. You think, okay, secure the game, fine. There's only a couple minutes left in the match. Do what needs to be done. And whilst it looked like it was all going to plan, Nestor Araujo tries to read the situation, gets it completely wrong, steps up, leaves open space, and then, of course, Joel Campbell does what he does, puts the ball in the back of the net, last minute, and
the goal really gets you mad when you see it, because it's
yeah, no, 100%.
because Lara does the right thing. He goes to his guy, right? Like he reads the play perfect. Like I know it sounds like we slander Lara a lot. It's not. It's like he does a lot of good things. It's just sometimes there's a lot of ugly things. But he does the right thing. He goes to the winger, and all he does is just pass it straight to Campbell, and Araujo doesn't read that. And in my opinion, like he doesn't have to be the fastest guy to read that. It wasn't necessarily like this like crazy pass or anything. It was just simply the defender didn't read it and didn't react to it in time, and goals like that are always gonna get scored on, because unless like the striker is just that bad. But Joel Campbell is gonna score that no matter what, good or bad, and you saw that.
Yeah, and that was the frustrating part about it because then that goal goes in, and I'm just like thinking to myself, great, like 2 points lost, feels like it's gonna be a L. Well, now we don't climb the table like we should be, being more comfortable, and it's just all these thoughts are going into your head, like we really had it, all these chances. What if that? And then it's frustrating because then the final whistle goes, and you're just like, great, a game that came down to your own doing. It wasn't because the rival necessarily walked all over you or forced it. It was because of your, again, constant defensive mistakes that made it so that this team was able to bounce back. And again, frustrating all around.
Yeah,
I
very,
mean,
very, very frustrating. And then you start looking at the schedule, right?
yeah.
That's the next thing that you focus on, and let's just hope, I believe in our attackers a lot. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, these games are gonna be very ugly. I don't believe that. But with that being said, if it's a close game, our defense needs to get it together.
And fingers crossed that they do, because like we mentioned, they we're gonna need them to. And I mean, that practically is that. America draws, 2 points lost, but hey, what a spectacle at the Azteca. Chaos, madness. You got a little bit of everything in this game, and well, I mean, as much as people will highlight and say that this was an amazing game, I am left with a bitter taste saying that this game could have gone much better for America, and it would have been a much better result and better feeling going into this Monterrey game.
Yes,
So,
sir.
but it is what it is in that context, and like we mentioned, that wraps up the game in that sense. Anything else you want to add on, or are we closing it out?
Nah, man. I mean, I think we said enough. A lot of our frustration, we highlighted. At least I did. I highlighted a lot the certain players. With Lara, I'm optimistic with him when once he moves to center back or defensive mid, because I do think he could be a defensive mid. But fullback is
Mm.
just it's very ugly, because even then I'm glad it's him and not Layun.
That's true. That's true. I mean, if your replacement is just as bad, if not worse,
Worse.
then that's
Yeah.
that's got to tell you something. But we'll see. Well, maybe he has the game of his life against Monterrey. Scores an amazing goal from like 30 yards out, and then we're like, okay, this is why Emilio Lara is where he's at.
Yeah.
Which I
I
don't
mean,
think will ever happen, but
he sends some good crosses sometimes.
sometimes Yeah, he has his days. When he's on, and when he's not, well.
Dylan, Dylan said Layun's better.
I'm telling you, Dylan loves to cause the mayhem, especially in the chat. Uh, AP
Basta.
Junior saying Layun, Lara over Layun. Layun's washed up, and then Ricardo Layun es un mal parido. So we'll see what happens in the fullback position for America, but that kind of really sums it up. In regards to club news, I mean, not much really that we know of because it's only Monday. Team was back in training. They did some gym work, and then that's kind of all. No real news out there, at least not that I've heard of. Chris, did you hear anything in the Americaverse?
Or just this is older, but just what's his name? Rojas from Racing, right? That's how you say their club.
Oh yeah.
That's old. I mean, not really
Yeah,
much
I
to talk
mean, we could
about.
touch about it a little bit, right? He's coming to the end of the contract, and America were quote unquote looking at him, right? Maybe potentially holding talks with the player, which I think those were kind of uh, those were false rumors, if I'm not
I
mistaken. That
believe
were
Merlo more than Julio Baños, if I'm being honest with you. When it
yeah,
comes,
well,
but
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it is
No, no, yeah.
interesting that it's an attacking midfielder, right?
Which could also be a winger, right? If
I
I'm not
think he's
mistaken,
a
he's
right because he's a lefty, so I would assume he plays on the right side.
yeah. But I wouldn't. I'll say this: Diego Valdez is not the answer to our America problems going forward. So if
He's
he can
not the
come in and
answer.
do a better job,
Wait, what do you mean by that? He's not the. You think he's replaceable?
yes, yeah, 100%.
That's a good topic to have, but I think we don't have enough time for that. I think
No, we don't. But we'll save it for the future. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of moving pieces right now for America, and it's still all looking like still all up in the air. We won't get a much better picture of this until the end of the Liguilla for America, whether that's lifting a trophy or an exit in the Liguilla. We have to wait and see. After that, we can make a lot better assessments. One thing's for sure, though, and I think everyone should know already, is Roger Martinez days as an America player are numbered. So
it's over.
it's over. We can start making a goodbye, thank you, tribute video for him.
And that's another conversation that we will have in the off season. And I'm sure there's some people that will say he wasn't as bad as we say he was. There's a
But
lot of
we
people.
all know in the end he was.
It depends, bro. There is some people that will sit here and argue for him. I feel Christian will argue for him, but then again, I'm not gonna talk for him because maybe I'm wrong.
It's okay. I talk for all of us all the time. So, and I know Dylan hates it. So, shout out to Carlos Serna right there, seeing that he's in the
With his
chat.
lovely eyes, right?
Yeah, lovely eyes. Jason says, I feel like a more versatile 10 could be very helpful for various scenarios as a direct sub for Valdez. And I think that's kind of what I was alluding to, but I don't want to waste international slot, like a foreigner spot, for someone that's going to ride a bench. Like that just makes no sense to me.
The defense has too many holes for us to really continue focusing on the attack, in my opinion.
100% correct in that sense. But all right, this wraps it up for us. I don't think there's any more news to cover. If there is, we'll get you guys all covered and set on Thursday. So join us again as we talk all things Club America on Thursday. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Eagle Eye Podcast. Make sure you guys leave a review wherever you guys are listening to the podcast, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, Google, wherever it is. Would really, really appreciate it and help us get more exposure like that. All right. With that said, Chris, I just want to say thank you for coming out tonight, man.
Always, man. Whenever you guys want to record, I'm ready to hop on.
Absolutely. Loving it. Loving it. All right. Thank you to all of you guys that were out here today in the chat. Ricardo, as always, Jason, AP Jr., Carlos, Carlos Diaz, and Carlos Serna. Where is it? Where is my man? Midwestern Cholo. There you are. Almost forgot the name. Absolutely love that name. But thank you to all of you guys who came out to the chat to chat with us on the live show. And if you guys do get a chance to, make sure you guys hop on Thursday. We'll have a fun one in that. With that said, you guys have a wonderful time. Take care. And as always, Arriba la America. Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was another production of the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 source for all things Club America in English. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Eagle Eye Podcast and get all the latest news and coverage. And subscribe to our podcast wherever it is you may listen.